Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Metro Monthly Update. This is the monthly update for
Yep.
January, and I am the CEO and Chairman, Derek Boyd, and this is
I'm the President and Secretary, Vladimir Stakov. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get into it because we got a lot to discuss.
absolutely.
This episode is going to be a lot more somber, and we have a fair amount of things like we're going to be covering from business and personal and continuing on from there.
Sure.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start it off. So unfortunately, I'll just go ahead and spoiler it. January's been an awful month for us. We just went off of a very big high back in December when we finally hit our first profit, even after we've been pouring all this money into the mobile home park, trying to do everything to like make it better and create like a better environment for everybody. And then sure enough, of course, as soon as we get out of one frying pan, we end up in the fryer.
Yeah.
Like that's about the best way I can describe it. So January started off with the unfortunate event that the unit over at 118 had a horrible accident where at 2 in the morning a BB gun had discharged and had killed a 2-year-old that was in that house by the tenant that was in that house. This unfortunate event obviously dictated a lot of police officers like coming out doing full investigations. Pretty much everything was trying to be figured out.
And to
like,
clarify one thing, the child didn't die in the home, it just was shot in the home, and it was a little girl. And she was eventually taken to a hospital, and she passed away there when she was on critical condition of some kind, like ventilators and whatnot, for quite a few hours, from my understanding. But basically, yeah, unfortunately, the child did pass, and it was at the most recent unit we had gotten renovated, 118, which led to...
So this led to an inspection being done on that home, as well as 122, which was that new unit that we recently got moved in, and we just didn't do anything to it yet because obviously we were focusing on all the repairs of the other homes, and also the empty lot of 138. Well, unfortunately, this then turned around, and this ended up with those units getting their electric meters taken out. And had like electrical holds placed on all of them, and we are still trying to figure out now like how to like work through this and figure out what we need to do, so on and so forth, while at the same time trying to reinstate these units. What really sucked about this was that 118, the tenant that was living there and that whole tragic accident happened, had left, obviously broken the agreements with us and everything else like that without warning, notice, or anything else like, because pretty much after the event had happened we never heard anything from them. And they just up and left, which is understandable given the situation, the circumstances that obviously happened. But when we had found another tenant to go ahead and replace that tenant, well, once they found out that they couldn't get the electrical on, they are actually now homeless. And this is awful. This is terrible to hear because there was nothing else we could offer. We had no other units available. We had nothing else going on. This guy had ran out of money paying for the motel that he was staying in. He had gotten a U-Haul. He was ready to move in that day. And then obviously we ended up getting the news, and that's how we got notified of this entire situation, which was very irritating, but it is what it is.
So I want to add a couple things because I was dealing with most of it. So a couple little issues with it. So as far as why the hold's replaced, basically just it is what it is. I mean, some of the repairs on it need to be finished. Obviously, as you know, we've been making repairs on the home over time, and so we just didn't get all of it done, and the county is requiring us to get all of that done, or at least the vast majority of it done, before they're willing to get the electric turned back on. Also, on top of that too, just general wear and tear that the tenant had done prior to the inspection. And for example, you know, like typical wear and tear, right? So whenever you have a home, you're renting it out, you know, the way the Landlord-Tenant Act works is that there's a certain range of damage that can be considered general wear and tear. So for example, if you're putting up like pictures on the wall and you have like little nail holes and stuff, that's fine. But if you have like full-on punch holes in the walls, or you know, like ripped up floorboards or something like that, just general, you know, bigger things than just like, you know, you're living day to day. And unfortunately, the condition of the home is quite noticeably worse, as you've seen before with our pictures. And in fact, we may get a chance to get an update picture to show you the differences, because we have done 0 repairs to the home since the tenant has left. But if you remember from our previous pictures where we had done the repairs, for example, you know, we put in all new floors, we obviously patched all the holes in the ceiling, we lifted the ceiling with temporary braces, we covered every single electrical outlet, recapped a couple of them, and replace some of the faulty breakers. And unfortunately, since the tenant has lived there, I'm not quite sure what they were doing, but we do allow them, as you've known, to do repairs in the home. And unfortunately, it's in much worse condition. So there's holes in the ceiling again. There's some extra holes in the walls. They ripped up some of our floor to put on the walls to replace the holes.
Yeah, that was the weirdest one.
Yeah, very
that
weird.
Literal pieces of the floor ripped out and just placed on the wall.
Yeah, and then we have so much exposed electrical that we've never had before. For example, I think there's maybe 1/3 of the house actually still has the face plates on them for the switches and the outlets. For some reason, the main bedroom's light fixture is, I'm not kidding, literally taken off from the ceiling and just hanging on the wall. I'm not sure what's going on there. And just other random general wear and tear. It is a really interesting situation. Unfortunately, as the landlord, of course, we are responsible to make repairs on that. However, this is the problem that we're having, and this is why he brought it up earlier, is that even with those the disarray of repairs, we were obviously planning on getting into those, as you know, from our constant budgeting schedule of when we're getting fixes and everything done. And of course, we're well aware that sometimes damages happen with tenants. The thing that frustrates us is that, like he mentioned, there is a gentleman, we're not going to name who, but he did obviously really need a home. He's in a desperate circumstance, and the man literally cried on the phone with me. This was the day after he called the county to try to get, when he called the electric company to get the electric turned on, and he was told that he couldn't do it. There was a hole on the park, and then we called the county the next day to get clarification on what happened, and we told him that we couldn't do anything for at least a week because we had to schedule an inspection for the guy to come out. And the man straight up just cried on the phone with me. He's like, dude, you're literally the only place I can go to. I have no other place that is willing to work with me. One, because as you guys know, we overlook almost everything. We don't really care for your criminal history background. We don't require deposits to get into homes. Our rents are insanely cheap, and we don't charge pet fees and stuff.
I'll give you an idea right now. The cheapest rental unit in our entire area, like I looked up on Facebook Marketplace when we did have 118 listed. I'm not even kidding you. There was 4 listings in our entire area, and we were one of them. The cheapest one was for $750, and if I can find a screenshot of this listing, I'll put it up here. It was for $750, required first month's and security deposit, so you'd have to pay a grand total of $1,500 to get into this property. No pets allowed or anything else like that, and it was also in a mobile home park located in Greenville, and that was the absolute cheapest. The other two started off at $1,000+.
Yeah, they were very expensive. One was
just for the rental amount, by the way.
One was for a 2-bedroom apartment in Easley, which is about 35 minutes north of Belton, where these homes are located, and it was for $1,200 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. That is double the full-on amounts that we charge for any of our units individually as a whole. And these people honestly can't afford that, and it's crazy. So unfortunately, given this for this particular gentleman, the last I spoke with him, because I've been trying to give him updates on the circumstances getting him into that home. Last I spoke with him, which was about a week ago now, he was literally living on a coworker's couch, and the coworker only let him stay through the weekend. So I have no idea what he's been up to for the last 4 or 5 days. I tried reaching out to him at one point and haven't heard back from him. So I wish that gentleman the best of luck. Unfortunately, we can't provide him a home at this moment. So that's
and it's terrible. So then what this led us to do is obviously led us to get an inspection. Like, we wanted to get an inspector out there to clarify with us what do we need to do, because at this point we're going in blind. We have no notices. We have no idea what's going on. We literally have no idea about anything.
Yeah, we basically just need a checklist to know
what
we actually
something, just something. Like, give me something. And we ended up getting it scheduled out with the same gentleman who did the initial inspection, which I was like, okay, perfect. I'm like, now we can get somewhere. And unfortunately, the day before our meeting, it had come to our attention that he had to cancel on us because of the fact that he ended up with COVID. And I was like, okay, that's fine, but we still need a checklist. We can't just sit here paying our maintenance crew and twiddling our thumbs doing nothing to get anything resolved. So we ended up going to the county, and we ended up getting another inspector to schedule it out with us the next day after the day that we were supposed to meet. This guy was awesome. He took time out of his day that really he didn't have to do. And we do appreciate it. He was able to go over a lot of the issues. I unfortunately wasn't able to make it, but in this case Derek did, and let's just say the issues are quite vast.
Yeah, I mean, he did clarify everything that we got to get done. Unfortunately, a lot of it, which we weren't aware of, obviously it's a learning experience. As you know, we're literally showing you guys what we're doing, and so you can learn from what we make mistakes on. Like, for example, one of the things we didn't know is that in the particular home that we had the particular home that we had remodeled, 118, when we were doing the repairs, this was earlier this month when we had to do a swap out for the water heater because the water heater busted.
Mhm.
Our maintenance guy, because of the crazy angle of how to get into it, because like the crawl space, I mean, you're literally doing like a military crawl at one point. It's we're talking maybe 1.5 feet. It's very tight in there. So instead, what he did, and we approved it, we didn't know it was a problem. We told him to tear out some of the underskirting, which is just a brick underskirting, as you know from the pictures, and you can pull it up. We told him to tear out some of the underskirting so he could address the plumbing, because the water heater is right at the end of that portion of the house where the front door is, and then there's, like I said, all the plumbing runs underneath in that section for the water heater. So we tore out the underskirting. Well, based off of what this particular division of the county requires, is specifically building and codes, one of the things that they look for is obviously underskirting. And so we damaged our own underskirting, putting ourselves in a liable position for the code enforcement, and we had no idea. We thought it was fine to just go ahead and at least knock that out, because we were planning on, as we mentioned before, replacing the whole thing with metal underskirting anyways to get it, basically prettier and up to date, because we don't like the brick. Plus, it causes vapor issues and whatnot.
The brick is the dumbest underskirting you can possibly put
really
on a mobile home. Either plastic, vinyl, or some kind of tin is far better.
So basically, we wound up screwing ourselves on that one, and then on top of that, which we didn't even know, is that at some point codes change. Obviously, as you guys are probably aware, one of the codes we weren't aware of when it came to mobile homes is that they have to have tie downs now. So not only do you have to have the mobile home sitting on the cinder block piers, which are like the things that they sit on literally to kind of keep it afloat, and then gravity kind of keeps it in place, and then underpinning is not really anything, it's just decorative. They also have tie downs, and from what I understand, is basically for like wind and any type of earthquakes or something like that, so it doesn't rock or rock off or shake off on top of the piers. So anyways, basically we found out from the inspector when he came out that that one didn't have a tie down on it. So because the underpinning is now exposed, we not only got screwed on the underpinning but also the tie downs. And then on top of that, just general things that have changed over time. So like there now needs to be a platform. I don't quite know the size of the platform, but where the entrance is for you to walk into the home, they can't just be like a basic concrete block formation like we currently have it as. They have to have some level of like standing area before you can enter into the entryway. And then also based on height, they do require guardrails. So those are simple fixes. Not a big deal there. It's just, unfortunately, all these things are kind of stacking on top of each other. Same thing with the electric. They don't want us to put on the new electric until we've obviously had it re-inspected. We got to put the faceplate covers back on it. They also want to make sure that, because once again, this home was initially built back in 1970 something, so they've had some code change over the years, and they want to make sure that the electric is still up to code. So I mean, there's a couple little changes that happen there. We might have to change out some more outlets to make them the more updated outlets, because there's like safety hazard type of outlets that are out there now. But just little things like that. But the problem is, it's just so much stuff being added up that we're like,
the cost of it starts stacking up so much to where it gets to a point where it's not even worth it. We can still buy mobile homes for $5-10K, pay to move them, and have a basically newer mobile home that doesn't have all these issues in place, over trying to rectify and fix this one. Because the other thing when it comes to codes, you have to use somebody that's always licensed. And
you got to pull permits for everything. So there's the cost of the permit, and then there's the cost of getting the licensed electrician or plumber or whatever, general contractor of any kind, and they charge a premium because obviously they're bonded and insured versus like a regular maintenance person. And so you have extra added cost on top of the material cost you obviously have to put into the home. And so it gets to be a point where it's like, okay, well, is it worth the repair, or is it better to just go ahead and replace? And so that's what we're looking into now, because we just found out this information as of yesterday, and we haven't exactly been able to sit down and kind of put the full number to the budget yet of what we need to do for a replacement cost or a repair cost for specifically 118. We do know that, for example, 122 is quite easily fixable. It is nowhere near as many fixes because it's a much newer home, so it's up to code a lot more.
And
standards.
To clarify, because we did bring up the fact as well that 138 had its electric meter ripped out. this one actually makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So basically, what ends up happening is that it's by, I think it's pretty much across the board in all counties. If there is not a home in that like specific lot or position, they always take out the meter and put a hold on it because of the fact that they don't want people going in there getting electrocuted and stealing or siphoning power off of that power box, and then obviously it can potentially create a liability. That one made perfect sense.
Yeah,
like
so,
that I totally understand.
And that's the same reason why 122's electric was put on hold, because same thing, it's not hooked up to anything. We had to get a permit pulled anyway, so it didn't really matter. So the issue with 122, 138, not an issue at all. It's normal protocol. The only problem is 118, unfortunately, is the one where it's like, crap, do we really want to put in another, $4,000 or $5,000 into this home, or do we just want to pay $4,000 or $5,000, get a newer home, and then on top of that,
on top of the amount that we've already put in as well. That's
exactly.
the insane thing. Like, that was the one that we already put in money because we knew it was uninhabitable when we first took over it, and we made it a good unit, and like we've had multiple people living in there for multiple months with no issues or concerns, and then now unfortunately we have this hold on there, and it's just like, okay, well, I don't know if it's actually going to be worth it.
Yeah, it's the same problem. So outside of that, I mean, it is what it is. It's just basic county stuff.
Well, then it moves on to the next issue that popped up. So after we ended up talking with that inspector and everything else, like getting everything sorted out, we then ran into the new issue where, if you remember, we had talked about how the unit 124, the current tenant that we have in there, last month we talked about it. We were actually planning to go forward the eviction. However, we actually stopped the eviction because of the fact that he started working with a charity organization that is promising to catch him up. We looked into this charity. They are a certified 501c. They've been doing the reporting since, I think it was 2009.
Yeah, it's been at least 10 years.
It's been many. Like, this isn't some new out of nowhere like this is seemed to be a seemingly established charity. We're like, you know what, fine, we'll give you some time, we'll work on it. Well, one of the other things that throughout that charity organization, they had another charity group that would also help him pay for his utilities due to the fact that it's winter time and obviously it's freezing outside, because he himself got the utilities turned on in his name, couldn't pay for them, they got shut off. He's been living in a home without I shouldn't say utilities, I should say electric, because we cover the water, obviously. And then we come to find out that his unit also has a hold on the electric, and that we have to pull permits on his unit to get the electric on, which I found that one to be incredibly weird because he had it in his name.
Yeah, so this is the one that frustrates us the most. So we were already quite irritated with the 118 one just because we already had another person who, once again, is literally homeless as of the last time I spoke with him. And we were frustrated because we couldn't put him in the home, at least temporarily, while we were getting these answers. That's the part that kind of made us a little mad, because we were like, look, man, we understand that we have the procedures to follow through, but at the same time, you're harming other people. This is beyond us. You're literally keeping people on the streets and keeping them away from at least getting out of the cold. And for those of you that aren't in South Carolina, the part that really sucks is we just had a really big snowstorm, like the biggest snowstorm we've had in like 15 years. We had about 6 inches of snow in this particular area, and we normally get like maybe an inch. Usually it's like a little bit of slush and some ice every other year, but this was actually a really big one that we had, and so we had a pretty hefty amount of snow, and it was cold as hell. And unfortunately, this is all during the time that this gentleman is just out there homeless because he couldn't afford a motel anymore, because once again, we only charge like $500, $600 at most for a unit, and most motels in the area charge about $60 a night. So if you just break that down, that's 10 days in worst case. And so back to 124, same circumstance. It is, as of today, every night is hitting about 20 degrees. In fact, we have one night coming up soon that's going to hit about 18. So it's getting literally quite a bit below freezing. It's very cold outside, and we cannot get this man's power turned on until we get an electrician. Obviously, we just found all this information out today as of this recording, which is the 28th. And I've reached out to as many electricians as I can. Of course, they have work schedules that they have to fit us in. We obviously have to get the permits pulled if we can even get it done. We have to have the budget for it, which we'll talk about later. So this man is living in a home that he can't get electric turned on, and it's been 5 months since he's been in the house. And he's had the electric, to my knowledge, turned on twice and turned off twice. And once again, never any problems. And this is the same home where when we first got into the park, we had the really problematic tenants at 124, and they lived there for 3 or 4 months or something like that. With
For us taking over, they were there
they were way before
longer.
us. Yeah, they've been there for like almost a year and some change. But when we took over, they had stayed for an additional 3 or 4 months with the electric on, never had any issues. And this is why we're so like mad about it. We're like, look, we get it if it's a new construction. We get it if you had a reason to go out there and do the inspection. They never inspected this home. They just put a hold on it because they assume it's under the same conditions as 118, and so they put a hold on any new ones until we get any permits pulled to make sure that everything's up to code for all the homes. And we're like, that's fine for like 122 or any of the other ones we move in. We have no problem.
Yeah, like
with
122 was not gonna, like, we didn't expect 122 to be ready for
Yeah.
rental until probably about 8 months from now.
Yes.
That's when we finally expected it to actually be good and
Yep.
like taken care of and good to go for rentals. And now, like, we're having all these other issues or whatnot that we're facing with it, and I'm like, I'll be honest, we don't really know what direction to go. Like, this is new territory, a new field completely for us, and we're trying to decipher through it all as we're getting it. And yeah, it sucks, man. Like, he's trying to put himself in a better, this is what irritates me, right? He's trying to put himself in a better position. He was
just got a new job.
Just got a new job.
Yep.
Was on the verge of getting evicted with us because we're a business. We have to operate things how we have to. We halted it on the potential promise of this other charity organization and everything else, like, because we're like, you know what, let's give it a chance.
Yep.
At least like one final chance before we finish out the eviction and everything else like that. And now he's stuck in a home with no power.
Yep.
Running water because we pay for it, but no power.
And same thing as all of our tenants. I asked them, I said, hey, is there anywhere else you can go temporarily while we're trying to get this resolved? And of course, no, because we were the only person willing to
No,
work
he
with
did
them.
say it. Walmart parking lot.
Oh, he did say that.
He did say Walmart parking lot.
He's like, I live
Until
in
he gets arrested from
Yep.
there for being, I think it's a vagrant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has a Walmart parking lot as his option.
Because he particularly has a bad criminal background, and same thing, we're literally the only people that I'm aware of in the area. Like, when I say area, I mean like within a good 100-mile radius, like within other states as well. Most people do not take anybody with a criminal background, especially a recent one, fairly recent, within the last 5 years. And even if it's not that, it's usually something else. Bad credit score, not enough for a deposit, no smoking, no animals. It's always something. And of course, we're the only ones willing to work with this guy, and now he's being punished for something that is literally outside of his control. And that, oh my god, that honestly kills us. It really does. It kills us at the core, because we can't do anything to rectify it any faster than whatever the basic process is. And we're going as quick as we can, but
you know what? You're
every day this man is sitting in the cold freezing. He's currently, as I got a call earlier today because I was trying to get all this resolved.
Oh yeah.
One of the other tenants who has power literally is basically giving him the couch and a potential room temporarily to hold them up because he doesn't have heat in his home and it's freaking freezing outside.
Yeah, he literally has been he's sat there on these cold nights. He's staying over at another tenant in the mobile home park to try to like not freeze off completely. It's, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna skip ahead. Look, okay. I'm gonna make this very clear. I believe we discussed this in our very first video. Our company philosophy is that we are based on creating a win-win situation for all parties involved. This means that we win, our investors win, and the people that we're signing agreements and doing things with win.
Absolutely.
That is our core philosophy at its heart. And the thing is that as long as we stay rooted and like focused on that philosophy is why we are in business. That is our why. When we focus on that, we can create these situations where everyone can benefit. There is a reason that every time we put up an ad for one of our properties, even in the condition that they currently are in the mobile home park, we are bombarded and flooded with more people than we could possibly take on, even if we wanted to. My Facebook log, because I'm the one that runs all of our Facebook messaging, my Facebook log, usually every single morning when I wake up, I have 20 unanswered messages ready to go because we are the only ones willing to work with people. We offer, you can go, if you pay like $550 and $500 security, you'll be stuck at a $550 rate, or we'll offer you zero security at $650. The people that we currently have in that park, we grandfathered them in to their original rate, even though knowing We could be
Mm-hmm.
far more aggressive about
Absolutely.
it, okay? The second we took over that mobile home park, we knew the rental rates. They're paying like 400, 425 for their units. We knew we could have thrown every single one of them out and immediately upcharged to a minimum of 550, if not 650, for every
Everyone.
unit in its current condition. That's not fair. That's not right.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a win-win for those people.
Yep.
We gave every single tenant to when we took over the park an opportunity to basically prove themselves that they are good tenants and that they're not abusing drugs, that they're not doing all this like shit behind the scenes and causing problems and causing issues for everybody else. And the people that haven't done anything are still deadlocked into that rate.
And we also put them on a year lease. To
Yes,
make sure
we
they felt
guaranteed.
guaranteed.
We put them on a year lease. All the newer tenants that we get in, we put them on month to month.
Absolutely.
We put them on a year, so we can't go back on our word.
That's correct. We can't change any prices on them. We can't basically renege any parts of the contract without their permission to do any addendums. We said when we came in, we're going to keep you exactly where you're at because we feel it's unjust and unfair due to the circumstances with the previous owners who basically just let the park dilapidate. And of course, these people were living in detestable conditions, getting worse and worse by the month. And we were like, look, the best we can do is at least keep you at the same rate. We'll get to these repairs, we'll fix it up for you, but we're not going to charge you more to make you live in a house that's honestly not worth it at the time. And now that we're starting to make the repairs, it's getting close to that value, but same thing. Even if we keep doing the repairs, we're not going to up the value on them at some point, maybe down the road, but not right now because once again, it's unfair. They were already paying too much for the conditions. Now they're getting to a point where it's actually the price it's worth. And look, man, I mean, once again, we could have kicked them out day one and done it.
Look back, June. What did we talk about? The investors that we had on that 6-month contract. What did you hear for 6 months from us?
Mm-hmm.
Of our struggling, of us having to put in additional money, of us literally getting outside income from different like methods. We may have not talked about everything, but I literally was doing Amazon Flex. I'm literally delivering packages to supplement the company instead of throwing these people out and putting them on a higher price point, which we could have easily done. He's over here doing similar things as well. We're taking money out of our own personal investments and funneling more money in. I had to put the last bit of my savings that I personally had into the company to not have to enact the other route, which is throw them out, whatever, get people in for higher costs because I know the rental market demands it. We were charging under anywhere between 20 to 40% of what the current rental market demanded. And it drives me insane because the reason we did it is because we genuinely wanted to work with those that were good, honest, hardworking people that are just trying to benefit themselves and have a roof over their head. That's it. That's the whole thing behind it, and it just drives me insane. And I guess this leads into the next point about...
Well, one other thing that frustrates me too is that I want to clarify with this. I mean, look, I get it. We're not dealing with the highest quality of candidates. I understand that. Like, our tenants are generally of lower income, significantly lower income, right? Obviously, if they weren't, they would live somewhere else. Mm-hmm. That's the part that kills me is that we are effectively, given the price point that we're at, we're literally the lowest of the low. We are like the literal last resort for most people. There isn't really anything outside of maybe some room rentals that are, which once again, they're equivalent, if not higher than some of our prices, that are available. So we don't have any competition with full-on individual units. And once again, these people have already lived there. For example, there's one tenant in there that's been there for 13 years. This is literally their home. We have another one that's been there for 6 years, another one that's been there for 5 years, 2 other ones that have been there for 3+ years. And the thing is, it's like, I'm not going to come in there and just really wreck these people's lives like a wrecking ball and just be like, hey...
Which, by the way, a lot of other companies do.
Oh, of course they do.
The second they close on it,
house.
30-day evictions across the board for all of them. If they're not out in 30 days, they file an eviction, which goes against the record, mind you, and then throw them out to the streets for them to figure it out.
And here's what kills me is, like, I'm not going to mention which particular tenant, but we have one tenant who's on disability and gets a grand total of $885 a month. That's it. That's his entire income. What is he going to do? We charge him $425. That means he has about $460 left, depending on any other fees that he has for stuff, that he has to put towards anything. That's the electric. That's any type of external stuff, like, TV, if he gets anything
Entertainment,
like that, cell
something, so
phone.
he's not staring at a wall all
Yep.
day.
To my knowledge, I don't think he has like EBT or anything because he's got disability. I think it's considered offset by the amount that he gets in his compensation. So that means he has to pay for food. He doesn't have a car because he can't afford one, so he doesn't have to pay for gas or anything. But even still,
He doesn't have
clothes.
family. He doesn't have family that can help him. How do we know this? Because we sat down and talked with every single tenant the first day we got in there. Because we were trying to figure out, because we heard a lot of rumors, so we needed to know exactly what situations we were getting into.
Exactly. So unfortunately, this man has, once again, nothing. And of course, the reason he's on disability is because he has medical problems. And with that comes additional costs in some cases for medications or people that have to come visit his home because he has a occasional at-home nurse that comes by every 2 to 3 days or so.
Yeah.
He obviously has the hospital or like something to do with the hospital system. They come by and deliver some of his like oxygen tanks and things like that. I mean, it just kills me because once again, where is this man gonna go? This guy has nowhere left to go. And then on top of that, it's like, why would he have to go anywhere, right? Like, if he chooses to want to live there, if we're fine with him and he's fine with it, why should somebody come in and intervene and force somebody to make a difference? Why is it that he's being punished if he wants to do whatever he's doing in that home? If he wanted to live somewhere else and he had the option to live somewhere else, then by all means he can go. Nobody's putting a gun to his head saying he must live in our home. No, he's actively choosing to. And same thing, I don't want to feel at any point in time he's pressured or required and, God forbid, forced to have to go somewhere else against his will, especially if he can't afford it. Alright, well, we're back. So, as you can see, we had to do a quick cut. Reason why is because, as we were mentioning before, with all the concerns with the tenants and their living conditions as of this moment, with particularly 124 not being able to get power on, we just spoke with him. He called in the middle of the recording here, and so I wanted to make it a priority to answer that. And I mean, I don't know what else to say other than I just feel terrible for his position. So, man is just at wit's end trying to figure out what he's gonna do. It's freaking freezing out right now. He's over here asking if we can like somehow put him up in a hotel or something, or a motel. I'm like, dude, look, I just told him straight up, I was like, I physically have nothing available right now, especially given that I'm now putting out money, which we'll get to in a budget in a minute, now putting out money for all the additional permits, the licensed contractors, new materials for stuff we got to get done, and I've already committed funds for things that I once again, have already had to put towards his home. I was like, dude, I'm sorry, I got nothing. So luckily, we were at least able to arrange that one of the other tenants in the park can house them for a night. What really sucks, though, is due to the time of this recording, it is a Friday night, which means that Saturday and Sunday, he's also going to have to find somewhere temporarily to stay. I mean, God, I don't know what to say, man. This is ridiculous. I mean, this guy...
This is the most bizarre real estate situation I've ever been in, because usually you can do, like... Here's the thing, you can usually create like a win-win situation in most things across the board if you're not being overly greedy and you are actually looking out for other people's best interest. And the thing is that it's... Honestly, it's just disgusting to me, because I don't... What our fear is now is that if somebody else loses their power because they can't pay for it for even like a month or whatever else, whatever their time frame is on it, if somebody else loses it, then there's no guarantee they can get it back on. We have no clue, because we don't know what's available and what's not to us. Once again, we thought we had it figured out, and obviously that's not the case. And then now we're getting calls like this, and it's heartbreaking. Like, honestly, it sucks. I don't know how else to word it. I don't.
But, so anyways, we're hoping that by the time this recording gets released, we're going to go down to the county and see if they can at least, like, do a temporary lift on the hold on his particular home. Once again, because he's had electric there before, and it's the same tenant. And, I mean, I can't make any promises. I don't know what to tell the guy. I feel horrible for it, because, I mean... Once again, this is the same tenant who literally doesn't have any money. He's paid us a grand total of $50 in the course of 5 months. He has literally nothing. Where he's having to reach out to a charity organization to even get him back on his feet. Just got a new job. He hasn't really made a lot of money with it yet. He hasn't made really anything because he works with a mobile home moving company, ironically. But it's been on and off raining, so he hasn't done a lot of work there because, once again, it's based on the weather. And so then he also took an extra day off because he was going to meet with the original home inspector that was coming out on Wednesday. Then he got canceled for COVID, so he just basically took a day off for no reason. And the reason why he couldn't go back to work is because he doesn't drive. Somebody else has to pick him up, so they had made plans not to come pick him up that day, so he just sat at his house doing nothing, once again with no power. Man, I don't know. His situation and the other guy that is homeless that was trying to get in 118, and then we have another gentleman, like I said, who's literally on oxygen, very, very poor health. It's been declining as of the last few months. I'm afraid if he gets kicked out for whatever circumstance, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say.
If we default on this loan, like that whole park, it's not going to be a temporary hold. It's going to go worse. The crime rate is going to skyrocket, and I wouldn't be surprised if the whole damn park got condemned. I really wouldn't. If we sat there and we just default on the loan, turn it back over to the seller, and just walk away, because that's always an option for us. But it sucks because here's the thing: like, we're trying to make it work. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to budget around it. We can only put in so much of our personal funds and it not completely bury us. In the end, if we ended up turning it over, I mean, him and I still have a home at the end of the day. We know how to budget out our finances. We have our one safety net, which is basically our own individual homes that we live in and whatnot. These people will have nothing. They'll be left with nothing. All of them will probably more than likely end up being homeless. And it's frustrating hearing these kinds of stories. It's frustrating hearing these kinds of situations. And I don't know. Actually, no, I do know. You know what's funny about this? And what really gets under my skin? 124, for those of you that remember from our previous videos when we first took over that park, that was the unit that we suspected was using like meth and other hardcore drugs and everything else like that. And they were having all these in and outs issues. You know what's hilarious about them? Is that they were perfect paying tenants. We never missed a payment from the previous people that used to live in 124. Never missed a single payment. They paid on time, on the 5th, every single time they were supposed to, but we knew they were a problem. We knew that they were a detriment to the park. We knew that they were going to sit there and harm the entire area for them being there and the things that they were doing and the problems that they were causing. And we ended up sitting there and evicting them while they were in perfect payment with us because of the drug issues that they were bringing about and all the issues they were doing. And they never got their electric turned off. They never had any issues. You know the worst part about this is that if they were still there, no problem. No problem. Leave the power on. Leave the unit alone. No issues whatsoever. We would still be collecting as well. Like he said, we got a grand total of $50 from this new guy that we got in there to replace them. And they were paying us the entire time. $425 on time every time. Oh, but we're the awful people because we threw them out because we're such god-awful slumlords as some want to accuse us of. And next thing you know, this new guy who's in there who's trying to just scrape by and barely make it and has all these other charity organizations trying to help him. No, you're not allowed to have a heated home. Yeah, that's real fair.
Honestly, that's one thing that really, really gets under my skin as you're kind of complaining about the other issue. Man, obviously I'm not going to mention who. Typically we don't really care about what people think of us because obviously it's not what you show out or what you we don't go out there specifically to do stuff for feedback in regards to like Instagram or like Twitter and get like little dopamine points from people liking what we do. We don't care. We're more for the objective of actually solving a problem. And I gotta say, one thing that does frustrate me is we've been routinely accused since we've particularly gotten into this mobile home park. None of the other properties have we ever had this issue with any of our owner finance homes or any of our other rentals. once again, remember, we've been in this business now for a little over 4 years, or at least for me, and then he's close to 4.
I'm coming up on it. Next month will be my 4 years.
But ever since we bought into this mobile home park, we have been routinely accused of specifically being slumlords, taking advantage of people in these circumstances, making fun of them for being in these circumstances, and particularly wanting to let everything fall apart and not do anything to fix any of their situations, and we just basically take a profit and run. And that's what really just absolutely pisses me off, because I mean, I cannot be more clear than when we have been in these videos. That's why we do this, because we're transparent in what we say and what we do, and we literally put our emotions on our sleeve. We want to make sure people understand, here's how we feel about a situation, here's what we're doing to rectify a situation, here's why. And I mean, we've talked routinely about how we can't stay in the conditions of these homes. We find it ridiculous. Well, that's why we bought into the park. Yes, of course we're looking to make a profit, but the profit comes after we fix the problems. That's why we haven't taken a single dollar out of this park. I mean, realistically speaking, the only way to do it is just pay off the previous investors and then just ride it out and not do anything. Well, you know what we did as soon as we paid off the investors? Look at our December video. The first thing we did is any amount of profit we had, we immediately went and put gravel into the roads. It's like, come on, we're doing everything we can given the circumstances we have, and it's like, we're deadbeats, we're slumlords, we're taking advantage of people, we're making fun of. That's the other thing that pisses me off. I've never once made fun of the tenants that live there. I make fun of the tenants that are specifically doing something that's illicit or illegal. I don't want to get into specific details, but I find it ridiculous that I'm being accused of making fun of people when the people that I'm talking about that I call quote-unquote animals are the ones that neglect their fucking children. Not specifically the 118 situation. This was a different situation at another home, I'm not going to mention who, that neglect their children, let them live in a home completely unsupervised, under the age of fucking 15. We have who got teenage pregnancies and everything else was just going on, completely living off the grid, doing whatever they wanted to do. Another guy who went on a drug binge, literally left his wife who was dying. Literally, she had to go to the hospital. She had no transportation because the only vehicle they had, he took, left for a month to go literally string himself out.
No, he didn't take. He got a repossessed and then
exactly.
got the neighbor to drive him out multiple cities away to go on a drug binger while she's over here in the hospital.
Literally, while she had to get somebody else to come pick her up. I think it was her sister or something, like 3 days later, to come pick her up and take her to the hospital, while they have a teenage daughter who was once again at the home all alone in this whole situation. A whole nother situation where can't get into details, but it's basically a molestation case that's ongoing, and they're trying to resolve that situation from a previous tenant that we had nothing to do with. That's what I call fucking
perfectly
animals.
paying tenant, by the way, but because of that entire situation, threw them out.
Yeah, those are the people I'm making fun of for being animals. And then the same thing.
Oh no, don't forget the one woman who sat there and literally
came in on our property and put the RV on it. Yeah.
She comes into our property, she dumps a damn RV on it, and then she admits that she's the one that trashed our entire place, that she got paid to do it. Not the people, obviously, that paid her to do it, told her to do this. She got paid to dispose of this properly, and she was doing a job for them, and her proper disposal was dumping hundreds of tires out in our yard. What does the county fucking do to help us with that? We provide them all the information, her number, her name, anything that we could get on her licensing, and like, hey, she has admitted that she's the one that did this before we even bought the damn thing. We're still responsible.
Yeah, we literally had her driver's, we had her driver's license, we had her license plate, we had every contact that she's pretty much had because she was related to some of the other people at the park. I mean, like you said, phone number, email address.
Written proof of her admitting that she's the one that did it.
And they're like, yeah, this is great, we can work with this. And then they're like, but if we can't get a hold of her, it's still your problem. And it's like...
And we're facing fines for it. Yeah,
exactly. It's ridiculous. And then, of course, if we want to get rid of the tires, we got to pay a disposal fee.
Even though on our taxes, which we just got done paying $4,000 on just this park alone. Now, to be fair, one of those is because one of the properties got put up for auction, like we talked about in a previous video. But even still, we pay $4,000 each mobile home. We are being charged a landfill, a landfill fee to then have to pay to use the landfill. How does that make any sense? Why am I being double charged? So I can't even do it because you want to charge me an absurd amount to get rid of them when it wasn't my fault, when I have proof that it wasn't my fault, when somebody else sat there and did it. We're already being charged for the landfill to then be charged to use the landfill. Wow, what a great, well put together system that's totally fair for the average person.
And that's another thing too. I mentioned this to Vlad, and I think this is so stupid. Like, once again, I have all the rights in the world to complain about certain circumstances if I feel they're inefficient, and I have, once again, freedom of speech. I do feel that in a lot of situations, county or specifically government regulations are very inefficient, and they're not as beneficial as they make them sound to be. It's more for making sure that there's accountability and coverage for the government side more so than the benefit of the populace. And my biggest problem with this is specifically in this regard, right? So, once again, what is the benefit, right? Specifically, the government codes and regulations, you would think that the point of it is to make sure that the houses are maintained to a certain standard and that people live in a quality home and they're not going to worry about like the roof falling apart on them and stuff like that, right? What is the benefit of making sure that nobody can live in a home and specifically levying fees at the person who's supposed to be fixing the home when all it does is incentivize the person who has the home to never fix it, because the more they got to fix it, the more fees they got to pay to fix it, when it seems better to just let it fall apart or dispose of it and do something else? Because what would make more sense is specifically in this regard, right? County already has inspectors, right? So they have to have knowledge in the field of what needs to be done, what needs to be replaced, what needs to be fixed. What is stopping them from having somebody who's exactly in that position, knowledge of the field, but also has the experience and the practicality in the field, aka a contractor on hand or on file that they can then send out there to do the repairs? So for example, if something like this were to happen, they're like, hey, you have 30 days to get this fixed. If you don't, we will, and then we will charge you what they charged us. And it's like, okay, well, what if I don't pay? Well, guess what? They're the county. You know what they can do? They can add it to the taxes, which means that if we then don't pay the initial contractor, sorry, if we don't get it fixed first, we then have a contractor that comes out against our will to fix the home for us. If we don't pay him, it then gets attached to our county taxes or our property taxes. If we don't pay that, it then goes up to auction and somebody else will get it and pay the taxes, and then they take the reward and they go from there. County gets covered, house gets fixed, people live in the home the entire time, and then whoever at the end, whether they get the benefit of a better quality home or they get an investment if they bought it at the auction. That makes so much more sense.
And by the way, that's a win-win. That right there is how you create a win-win situation. Because yes, if you truly do have a slumlord who isn't going to fix anything, why is the answer to come out there and rip out power meters when instead, like he's saying, hire a contractor for them so the people living in that home don't have to get punished?
Yes. And that's
why
the worst
do
part.
they have to get punished because of somebody else's negligence? Just like we are getting punished for years of problems that happened before we ever picked it up. We picked up a problem knowing it's a problem with the intent to fix the problem, because as we've said in every single video, our goal is to fix and renovate what is already there so we can expand it and file the appeal to get it up to that maximum potential 22 unit mark that could potentially be allowed under law.
Yeah.
Our goal the entire time: fix and repair what's there, aka better the people's lives that are currently there, so we can expand it out and make more of a profit later on.
And the thing that frustrates me too is that specifically in regards to this situation with county is that they keep clarifying that they need to see progress, and it's like, dude, we literally have video documentation of day one since we got in, the condition of the park before, what we've had to do since, and what we plan to do in the future. What more evidence do you need of progress than literally what we've proven to do?
Go down to the mobile home park, knock on every single tenant's door. Like especially our grandfathered ones, ask them what their quality of life was like before we came in and after we came in. Ask them how many repairs got done before we came in, after we came in. Ask them. I challenge you on it. Like, if you want to accuse us as being slumlords, if you want to accuse us as being pieces of shit, if you don't want to listen to a single word we have to say, that's fine. Luckily, we have something called the First Amendment that we still heavily believe in, and we believe in your right to say that and accuse us of that. Go ask them. Don't listen to a word we have to say. Ask our tenants. See what they have to say, especially the grandfather ones that have been there for 5+ years. Yeah, see what they have to say.
And also, another accusation we have on top of the slumlord thing, you know, this is another thing, right? Obviously, we don't make everything...
Actually, real quick, let me explain to you what a true slumlord does. The true meaning of a slumlord. What you are is that you are an investor who has bought into a property with the sole intention to rent it out. You do the absolute bare minimum cheapest repairs that you absolutely have to do. Not quality repairs, cheapest repairs. So prime example in this situation is that, let's say your tenant sat there and they started noticing that there was a roof leak. You walk in, you see it's just a little drip, walk right out. It's fine. Then once the roof caves in and you have like a hole in the drywall up above and whatnot, now there's a good amount of water coming in, throw up a tarp. Then once you sit there and once that tarp rips or whatever else, just move the ripped tarp. It's cheap. The cheapest possible repairs. Their plumbing starts having issues or whatever else, you don't replace the toilet. No, you use the great stuff, which we've talked about, and you just seal it up real quick. Maybe put some quick caulk on it or whatever else while shutting off their water for a couple of months. Because of all that water damage that happened from that roof, you're not going to replace the carpet and the floor. No, rip it out, put in fans to dry the carpet out and cinder blocks to keep the carpet up so it can dry out so it doesn't properly mold, and let the tenant pay for the electric bill that caused for you having to do that for multiple days. Someone's door doesn't sit there and close. Instead of replacing the door or properly fixing the door, not your problem. Tell them to go put a padlock on it. And while the whole time you're doing that, I promise you are saving so much money and you are getting so much short-term profits that you just don't care. Someone calls you to bitch, hang up on them. Not your problem, not your concern. That's how you run an effective slumlord operation. That's how you do it. Here's the problem with it. When you're doing something like that, you are permanently devalued, or not permanently, you are getting temporarily big profits for like long-term devaluation of the property. But the funniest thing about it is that at the end, once you sell it off to somebody else to go deal with the problems afterwards, you actually made full profit across the board the entire time at the worst expense of all the people's lives that you affected in the process. That's a true slumlord. We should have, if we ran the true slumlord route, Derek and I should have already have profited by the end of this year somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 because we wouldn't have paid it out. That's a rough estimate, obviously. That's a true slumlord. Could have done that. Could have easily done that. And the funniest thing is, once again, like 124 here, if we would have done it, we actually would be making more profit right now because of it. God, what terrible people we are. How dare we throw out drug-using people to better the whole park?
And that's what I was going to get to about the whole slumlord thing, right? And then people say that we're just being superior and taking advantage of inferior positions of people. One thing, like I said, we don't make everything transparent, especially personal lives and whatnot. One thing that I get so frustrated about when I hear this is, once again, you have no idea the conditions of the life that I live. Vlad and I literally, I'm not making this up, you can, if you really want to, if you're so dedicated to prove your point, come to our houses. We literally live amongst our tenants. I rent out 2 of my bedrooms to other people that were, if they couldn't get into the mobile home park or they couldn't get into any of our other properties and I had a space available, I put them in my homes because I don't want them on the street. Vlad is the same boat. We literally house the people that we are quote-unquote calling animals or taking advantage of. I had a tenant
literally call me back. He used to rent out a room out of my house. He called me back because he got in a bad situation. He had just enough money to sit there and do the room rental again and everything else. I had to turn him down for my home. I don't have room. The only thing I can offer next is my couch in my living room. I had to turn him down. I couldn't take him into my own home. Why is he calling me back if I'm such a piece of shit slumlord? Oh, that's right, because he went to an apartment complex, waited there for 3+ hours. Nobody ever, that on a scheduled day that he was supposed to tour this place for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath at $750 a month. God, what a piece of shit I am.
And that's the thing that frustrates me, is that we routinely get calls from people who have been previous renters to us, that they got themselves in a better position, or they just had somebody else, take them into whatever condition they could have been in. So for example, one person got in a relationship with another person and they combined budget was higher than what it was by themselves, so they got to another home. Well, they eventually broke off, and then of course that person was like, I have nowhere to go, or at least I can't afford any of these places that we were originally in when I was with the other my significant other or whatever. And so who do they call? They always call us. I find it hilarious that we have this backlog. I mean, when I say backlog, I mean we have a freaking backlog of literally 400 plus people who we always reach out to as soon as we have a property that comes available. We offer it to them first. Actually, in regards to the mobile home tenants, because obviously some of the homes are in nicer conditions than others, we offer it to them first to see if they want to move, because they're priority number one to make sure they're satisfied because we feel bad about their situation. Then it's the backlog of people. Then we advertise the home. I mean, we advertise it anyways because we always want to make sure that we have like a group of people that are available at all times. Man, I have people who have been calling me routinely. I mean, I kid you not, routinely for 3 years trying to get in some of my homes because whenever we get them available, I let them know, and then they either don't have the money at the time, or they can't get in right away, or they're out of town, or they're already stuck in the lease, and they can't get in. And by the time the lease breaks, for example, I don't have anything available because, once again, we offer to whoever can get into the homes because we don't care about your background or any of that stuff. We just care about people getting off the street. And it's like, once again, I've blown away that we're getting effectively punished, and so specifically the people that we work with are getting effectively punished when I'm not making accusations, but it's like, once again, all these county officials or government officials or even the DMV, when we had a problem with them once, it's like they have places to go, right? They work a job, they go home, they sleep in their beds, whether they, condemn somebody or put a hold on somebody or evict somebody or what, they still have somewhere to live no matter what happens, because that's their job and their routine. But these other people, which I understand sometimes it is 100% these people's faults, right? They may, been taking advantage of the situation or squatting or something like that. But in a lot of circumstances, these people really don't have anything. I mean, they really just don't. These people genuinely are, like, at the beck and whims of other people. They are truly dependent for the most part, especially if they've made mistakes in the past and they're trying to rectify those mistakes, and people are just not willing to give them second chances. And that's what freaking pisses us off, because we're trying to give people second chances, and it's like, fuck us, right?
And that's the thing too, is that I understand, like, obviously we're still running a business and we're still running a full operation here. The thing is, these people had no other second chances until us. If they mess up with us, there's nothing else anybody else is going to do for them. At least we gave them that opportunity. Here's another fun little fact because of the current rental market around here. Promise you, if I really wanted to, $750 every single mobile home, except for 108, which
Absolutely.
is the double wide, be charging that about $1,200 right now.
Absolutely.
No security deposit.
Mm-hmm.
Booked. We would be completely booked. God, man,
we have other properties.
the reason we don't, by the way, is because we don't feel it's fair to charge that with the total state of the mobile home park as well as the internal state of those properties. We are trying to price it fairly.
And that's the thing. We have other properties where, once again, the surrounding area around us, their rents keep going up, and we keep it basically the exact same. We haven't basically gone up on all of our rents in the 4 years that we've been in business. I can't think of a single house except for one, and that was because we did repairs and renovations to it, that we actually went up a decent amount. And when I say, like, going up, I'm talking, like, at most we've gone up maybe $10. We don't upcharge anything. We try to keep it as affordable as possible, as long as we can make the amenities covered. Like, we cover any utilities that we have to pay for. We cover for insurances and stuff. We cover for taxes and whatever else, various expenses that are on our end. As long as those are covered, profit, whatever. I mean, if we make a little bit of money here and there, it just helps us get somebody else off the street down the road. But it's like,
and you know what's worse about this as well? Here's this is why we're so frustrated about this. Again, like I mentioned before, even Derek and I, we have homes to go back to. Rip out every single electric meter out of that mobile home park. Put every single one of those people in a homeless or freezing cold situation right now. You're hurting them, not us. I already have some ideas of how Derek and I could salvage the situation. Realistically, actually ripping out the meters across the entire park based off what our current numbers are, because now we don't have to add in the water bill, the trash pickup, the lawn care, any of these other things that we're sitting there and we're paying for. It actually boosts our profit margins doing that. We are actually fine. Like, this isn't an argument about our investment. This isn't an argument about our fucking money. This is an argument for other people's living situations and their second chance and their home. It is their home. It's an investment to us. Ripping out everything puts us actually in a better position than we are now. We can ride out that 9 years left on that loan that we have right now. We can ride it out, and then at the end of it, we can borrow against the property and we can rebuild it back up from the ground up. No problem. We can sit there and rent out the units as storage units if we have to. We have all these other potential available options that we can do to go ahead and just cover ourselves and keep scaling our company in other avenues. I don't care. It's an investment for Derek and I. It is people's homes. It is some people's second chance. It is some people's only place that's keeping them out of a Walmart parking lot. Don't believe me again? Go talk to them.
Go talk to them.
I welcome it. I encourage it.
In fact, that's what makes me so mad too, is that when we found out that this was all going on, this was on a Thursday, so this was 2 weeks ago. When we found out this is the day after this is the same day the man cried to me on the phone because he was homeless at the time. This is after the whole motel situation for 118. So that same day, we dropped all business, and Vlad and I spent 7 hours at the park talking with each and every individual tenant, specifically made time for all of them, worked around their schedules to make sure that they were at least aware that this was happening.
We stood out in the freezing rain because some people had to go to work, and we were talking to them through their car. And I was actually wearing, ironically enough, this exact same jacket. I was soaked in freezing rain. It was 45 degrees outside, downpouring torrential rain. Didn't care. It was worth my time to try to give these people a forewarning and let them know the situation, so that way they can sit there and potentially prep to have to find another place, or we could potentially find a way to make this work and continue on from there. That's all I want. I just want an opportunity to make this work, and literally ripping everything out and not giving us an opportunity to collect money off things. Guess what? We can't fix anything. Let it tank. Like I said, the funniest thing is that if it tanks, we're fine. It's actually cheaper for it if we don't have to pay for any of the services and amenities that we're having to pay for right now.
It really is. Like, to break it down very simply, like he said, we have no effective fees left on there because there's, like he said, there's no water, there's no repairs, there's no little bit of lawn care, but not much. And then
we'd have to do lawn care like maybe once every 2 months.
Yeah, and then no trash pickup. So really, the only thing we have to deal with is just paying $1,953 to the mortgage, and that's very affordable in our budget.
Our water bill this month was $2,000.
More money than that was.
Our water bill was more than our entire mortgage on that property because we're trying to get around to fixing the leaks. You want to know what happened to those tenants before we took over? There was months that they went without water.
Actually, that's very true. I think we mentioned in another video, not sure, but yeah, there was time. They've mentioned it to us. The people that have been there for at least a year plus, which is about all of them except for 2 people. They've all mentioned that there's one routine section of months where there was like a 2-month period where the deadbeat, basically landlord at the time was
not the seller.
Yeah,
there's a different guy.
This was the landlord, so the guy that the seller basically gave the permission to control the park and handle it. That deadbeat landlord, the meth seller / all the other drugs and crime that was written in the park, he would skim off the top, take money, go buy drugs, not pay bills when they were due. And so they had multiple times, twice specifically, that they had water completely shut off. And these individual tenants, not only were they paying rent, not only were they paying extra on rent because the guy was bumming off for them.
The guy would they would pay rent and he would come back and he would literally get more rent out of them.
And he would be like, I'll take it off for next month. I'll do you guys a favor. I'll do whatever. He kept over-promising and under-delivering. So there was one guy in particular, he mentioned he's paid $800 in 1 month, and the water got shut off. And you know what? The landlord didn't pay to get the water turned back on. No, the entire park had to come together and communally add their funds up to pay that bill. And that bill
after paying extra on rent, which is illegal as hell, by the way.
And so that happened twice.
That's how you run an effective slumlord operation right there, baby.
And once again, that happened twice. It has never happened since we've had the park in the 7 months we've had it.
We have pulled money from our own personal and my own savings to make sure that these situations would not happen again.
Yeah.
God, man, it just irritates me so much. And the thing is that when it comes to the county as well, please understand this. Like, We find a lot of things inefficient, but we understand
Oh,
they are just
absolutely.
people doing
Their job. Yep.
They are doing nothing wrong. Like the person that you talk to at the counter at the county office, they have done nothing
Yep.
wrong.
This is
They
what-
are just simply
Yep.
following the laws, procedures, and policies that they have to. I understand that.
Yeah, this is more of us blaming the system, not the people. We have no problem with the people. Like I said,
Well, actually, like you guys heard us talking about earlier, we were so thankful that that other
Yeah.
inspector took his time that he did not have
Well-
to do to go out of his way to come and talk to us.
Absolutely.
He had no obligation to do that. He chose to do it. I appreciate him so much for taking that time to do it. That's why they were saying the person behind the counter is not the problem. It is a system, and it's in and of itself that's a problem. And even again, if you want to look at us and be like, "Oh, poor slumlords getting hit," what makes you think you're safe? Have you read the county regulations? You can't have a hole in your wall bigger than a nail. You can't have gaps in the flooring. So if you have a gap where you can see where the floor and the wall attach, you're in violation.
Yep.
You can't have X amount of roof leaks in your roof, and if it has any kind of bulges or ridges, that's in violation. If you have exposed wiring or outlets that aren't properly covered, you're in violation. What's to say you're not next?
yeah. Anybody
You're
can-
just every single home I have ever bought in the state of South Carolina is under these exact same regulations, and all of them would fail.
Yep.
Promise you. We're not going to say what the motel is. There's a motel in a downtown area.
Yep.
That has half of it, the roof is caved in, and the entire rooms, 14 plus rooms, are molded to hell. Now the guy isn't renting those rooms out and putting people in the spaces or anything else like
But
that.
they're right next
But
to the
they're
spaces
right next to
that
the ones that
getting-
are available.
It's not like it's two separate buildings. No, we're talking imagine you have a house and you have two bedrooms next to each other. One bedroom, the roof collapsed and there's a whole crap ton of mold and the house is falling apart on that end. And right next door, you're renting a
You
room.
open the door and I'm not kidding, you open the door, the sunlight beams in, you can see the mold spores.
And yet,
That's perfectly fine.
and once again,
It's in a downtown area.
of a very big city.
It's in a downtown area. That was one of our potential investments. The guy was asking for $1 million plus for it, and we're just like, I'm sorry.
Wasn't worth it.
I can't agree to it.
Yeah.
Maybe on owner finance, but I'm sorry.
And it's like, that's the stuff that makes us laugh. It's like, okay, they're fine because whatever, who cares, right? They're just a business running business things. But of course, if it's residential, God forbid, you want to screw them over the most, because it would make more sense to screw over the business because you're not harming anybody except the business owner. But you're screwing over in residential, you're screwing over the people that live in the homes. It seems so counterproductive. Like I said, back to what we mentioned earlier, it seems like it would make more sense for the county to want to force the hand of the people to make the repairs. If they don't, then they will handle it themselves.
They do that with grass, by the way. If you
Yeah.
do not cut your grass, they will sit there and they will send you a notice. If you do not abide by that notice, they will send you a fine. If you do not abide by that fine, they cut the grass for you and charge you an exorbitant amount. It's too punishing,
Yep.
but that's besides the
Same
point.
thing with
But yet they
demolitions.
should send somebody out.
Yeah, they do the same thing with demolition. So once a house gets beyond repair, and once again they think it's an eyesore or it's a health hazard or something like that, same thing. They'll condemn it, and then basically from that point, if nobody fixes the repairs or does anything within the grace period to fix something, then they will demolish it, and they will levy that entire fee onto the property. Like the exact same scenario we're talking about with just getting repairs done, and if you don't pay it, it gets added to your tax bill at tax auction and gets covered by somebody else, because there's always an investor want to come out and get a house at a cheap discount at taxable rates. But no, once again, like Vlad said, it's so funny. It really is. Like, even if somebody were, once again, I'm not going to make any accusations to say it's anybody in particular that's doing this, or this is just a victim of circumstance. I mean, it could be a series of events, right? But it's like, it's so funny because if somebody were to be doing this, like maliciously, and they were like, oh, we don't like these people because whatever, even though we're not even relevant on YouTube. So once again, I doubt that's the case. It would be very surprising. But once again, if somebody were being malicious and they're like, I don't like these guys, right? I want them getting burned. like Vlad said, it's actually more beneficial for us that the whole park did get screwed over because all these people get their meters ripped out and they got to go get kicked out on the street.
We'd immediately shut off the water, turn off all trash pickup services, stop everything, and like I said, I don't know, turn it into a storage unit.
Yes. Or
it can't it
lot
can't be
rent.
lived in because there's no electricity. It can be used for storage.
We can rent out the lots. We can convert it into a campsite. We can eventually do some mail forwarding services. I mean, there's so many. It's technically a commercial property, so we can always rent it out to other commercials looking to build the site, kind of thing. I mean, there's so many options to it. It's ridiculous, but it's like
we could owner finance the land to some mega corporation that's wanting to sit there and build an apartment complex, and then like they just want to keep expanding it out from there. There's so many this is why it pisses me off. We are fine if we are getting burned. Like somebody wants to sit there and argue, and we're such terrible slumlords and everything else. We've put ourselves in a position where we have contingency upon safety net upon safety net to cover ourselves in business. That's how you run an effective business. We financially already scheduled it out to where at minimum we can afford the taxes and the land. Actually, that's another thing. All those mobile homes get taken away. You think we're gonna pay the taxes on them?
Oh God, no.
You know how much that would save us? That would save us almost $1,500 in taxes because we wouldn't pay for them. And then the beautiful thing is somebody else would buy them at tax auction, and we would tell them it's yours, have it, and then they move the mobile home off for us. That benefits us.
Or we charge them lot rent. They do the repairs, get all the permits done, fix it up, and they rent it from there. And they have tenants on our land. But now we just get lot rent. We don't have to deal with any of the problems. They take care of all the utilities. They took care of all the repairs. We just sit on it and collect money. It's the easy way.
It's not fair to the people living there. It's not fair to our backlog of people begging to get out of whatever situation that they're in, whether it's an abusive situation, they're living in a cramped family environment, they're currently doing some kind of room rental, they're literally living in a Walmart parking lot while still having a steady paying job. It's not fair to those people. Us, it's fine, but that's not our philosophy. Win-win situation. That's our philosophy. And we believe in that so deeply. That's why we're getting so upset. Look, I apologize. This video has not been anywhere near as professional as it usually is. And it really has been a lot of venting emotions on our end. But the thing is that, like, it's worth saying. It's worth recording. It's worth having. For nothing else than for him and I to maybe one day go back and look at it and be like, that's what we believe in. And to reroute us back into our core business philosophy.
Because at no point in time can either ourselves or other people at some point go and say, well, these guys would never like this before, and be like, yes, we were. We're staying true to whatever the hell our code is. In this particular case, it's always making sure it's a win-win situation and generally just doing the best benefit for the people. It's like, once again, you know how freaking easy it is to be a deadbeat investor? Like, I could not explain to you the amount of investments we could have got into and taken advantage of other people, but we don't do it because, one, we have morals and principles. God forbid we have a freaking heart. And secondly, the other thing is, it's like it doesn't help anybody in the end. There's no progress for humanity. We're not helping anybody. We're just more part of the problem. And that's what we're tired of, is that everybody's just part of the problem lately.
No, what I'm tired of is I'm tired of people that want to point the finger and bitch while they do nothing to fix the problem.
All the sideline critics.
Yeah, they want to sit there and bitch and get on Twitter, type out their little messages, sit there and act like they're big and bad, and my little tweet just saved humanity. No, it didn't. Yeah, wake up.
We've gotten, even as small as we are, we've gotten quite a bit of attention for that statement. Like, people will talk whatever mad game they say, like, if I were in your position, here's what I would do. And it's like, wow, that is evil. And it's like, why are you going to tell us what honorable route you're going to do, and you don't even know what you're talking about, because what you would do is actually worse. And we explain it to them, and they just don't want to hear it at the time. And it's like, whatever. They're in the position they're in for their reason. We're in the position we're in for our reason. But the thing is, to kind of finish up the video, because we're just kind of rambling and ranting at this point.
We've already gone off script.
Basically, all that's left now is the budget, and it really, it is what it is. So in total this month, because
the evil slumlords have brought in a grand total.
No, we didn't bring in a grand total of jack shit. We went negative. So
Wait, then we're not doing it right.
yeah, no, we're the worst kind of slumlords, aren't we?
Yeah.
But anyways, as I just alluded to, yeah, we're negative this month for obvious reasons. But I'll get into it. So basically, the properties that we did get money from, we didn't get money from all of our properties. So for example, we mentioned that the tenant at 425, we've delayed his eviction, so he obviously is still not paid this month. If that charity,
124.
sorry, what did I say? 120.
125. You
Yeah.
said like 125
I don't know
or
what I stood up losing
145
at this
something.
point. But anyway, so 124. So they have not paid. Obviously, we hope that the charity organization comes through. Unfortunately, if they don't, then it is what it is. We have to move forward with what we have to do, which is protect the investment. But once again, if they do come through, that's great. Not counting it into this investment. I mean, into this budget because we haven't physically received it. So they didn't pay, and then the gentleman actually at 108 is behind again, and so he hasn't paid. However, he did reach out to me today, conveniently, and so he does say he has about half the payment to pay me tomorrow morning. So we'll find out how that works out. But once again, I won't clarify any of that until the next video because this video is already in advance of that. So so they didn't pay, and then also the lady at Jonesville, the owner finance property we have, didn't pay. And outside of that, that should be everybody that has paid outside of obvious circumstances for the gentleman at 118. The one that lost a child, obviously he didn't pay because he didn't. I don't blame him. He doesn't want to live in the home that his child died in. And having be a constant reminder of that. And then of course we didn't get anybody new in there due to the circumstances. So that's the four main things that we didn't receive money on, which actually accounts to $2,315 in lost investments as of this moment, which is a pretty large amount. Not including anything left over from previous months. Like I said, 124 hasn't paid in like 4 months. So with that being said, of the rest of the income producing properties that we have, we did bring in a grand total of $3,225. Now, with that being said, we had to kind of figure this out a little bit to an extent because we had initially, if you remember, now that we don't exactly know when we're going to get to it, and we didn't exactly set a time frame with it, but we had gotten a partial credit, or at least a kind of like a reimbursement of it for 122 getting moved in, and then the like full renovation to get it all up to par being like the external parts, so like the skirting, the deck, the getting the electric turned on, plumbing hooked up, whatever else is left on it. All that stuff was actually the agreement that we had with the previous owner, and we did agree to that in advance of this whole situation, and so he obviously already made that sacrifice for this month, and so we took it out of the mortgage, because once again this all happened, the mortgage payment was all before this whole debacle happened. And so we actually only paid him $509 because that was the leftover remaining of when we started the reimbursement and of the moving fee, back taxes, and the finishing of the repair to get it hooked in. So like I said, we only paid him $509. Now we may, I want to go ahead, we have to discuss it with him. He's sort of aware of the circumstances. He doesn't know about the most recent stuff because it just happened in the last day or two. But we may have to pay him back on that because obviously we can't act on it right away. Or he may just has it as a revolving credit until we get a chance to do the stuff to 122, and then it's already been taken care of. So we'll figure that out later. Right now, because we didn't physically pay him anymore, that's what the credit is. So so with that being said, really the only bills we had this month, because remember our water bill is every 2 months on cycle on our credit card, so we didn't pay a water bill this month. So that $2,000 will be on next month's bill. And then we only had to pay for a portion. Well, we did pay. Here's the other thing too, right? So if you remember the way more problems of why we get so frustrated with this entire situation, because it's not really harming us, it's harming everybody else. The maintenance guy that we have on file, the one that works for us, he gets paid by us to work on the homes. We have an agreement with him that every home that he's able to work on, specifically in the mobile home park and anything beyond in our portfolio, he gets an additional $100 per home to maintain them. It's kind of like having a passive income based off of just the properties, and as long as it keeps him afloat, then he'll keep getting that money whether he has to repair them or not. Well, now that we have...
Well, first of all, we already screwed up. Slumlords, get rid of the maintenance guy.
True. But now that we have 2 properties that we can't utilize anymore, and he's aware of this because this is based on our contract with him, he's not going to get paid for any of those 2. Now, we did pay him for this 2 weeks because, once again, we felt it was fair because we didn't get confirmation until yesterday, and we pay him on the 7th and the 22nd. So, once again, we paid him anyways, even though we knew it might be a problem because, once again, we're not deadbeats. So we gave him that money, but now his effective fee is going to go down for just maintaining our park from $650 every 2 weeks, so $1,300 total, to $550 every 2 weeks, and that's going to be $1,100 total. So we lost $200, which, you know, I guess benefits us because now it's less fees that we got to pay out. So I mean, it's so stupid that we even have to say that, because we would rather pay him than not pay him. But we can't afford it if our budget keeps going to crap. But anyway, so finishing off with that. So as far as our actual bills go, we paid him the full $1,300. We paid the $509, and that's it, because our only other two bills are the water bill, which comes out every 2 months, which will be next month, and our trash pickup is every 3 months, which comes out I think in February or March as well. So we don't have any additional bills, but we only have a negative $1,809 in terms of debts this month, not including the one that matters the most, which is the $4,006 we paid in property taxes. So with that being said, we had a grand total negative of $5,815. So when you add in the money that we did bring in, our total net of this month was negative $2,590, which,
in case you guys are wondering, the way we pay property taxes, we had to put it all on credit cards.
Yep.
Because it was cheaper to put it on a credit card than to pay the county fees for you not paying the taxes on time, because like I said, it doesn't go up to auction immediately. It just keeps racking up more and more late fees.
And so now, like we talked about before in the last video, actually, how we were going to pretty much coast for about 3 months because we got to pay back debts. Well, that's part of the debts that we already accounted for. So we knew that we had about another roughly half of the property taxes we were going to put on credit cards. The other half we had cash for. And then the other debts, like he was talking about the startup costs for the company, other delayed debts when we were initially getting into the mobile home park, all that stuff we had already factored in, and we knew it was going to take, based off of our income at the time, was going to be about 3 months or so. Now that we've lost an additional $650, the questionable circumstances with 124, whatever is happening in 108, all those conditions obviously affect that budget as well, plus any additional repair costs that we have to factor in now for permits and things. That's only going to delay that even further, which means it's going to be taking us longer to even fix up any of these other problems or solve any other solutions, and definitely going to stop us from getting into any other investments that cost us anything up front to get into, unless it's another owner finance, because those are relatively cheap to get into, which of course we're not opposed to. We always will get into another owner finance. It's super simple to get into, and honestly, given the circumstances, that's probably what we'll do, which is
it's either this or wholesaling. Yeah, that's because I'm sorry, Derek and I have given enough. We've given enough on our personal. We've given enough on everything else like that. I'm tired of giving, and then now, to me, from my perspective and in my opinion, I'm seeing my reward. And honestly, yeah, no, we need to sit there. We need to rebuild back up a budget or find out other outside investments to hopefully then refunnel it back in through Metra itself, not us personally. Because I'm sick of this.
And that's the unfortunate circumstances of this event, is that all it really does is, once again, just penalizes the people, because we just have to reevaluate it as a business, because we have to figure out what we got to do to bring in more profit or to allow us to afford more repairs. And if it's not investing more into this property, just like, you know, with whatever income we have set aside, if we just maintain what we have going for the maintenance guy and whatever materials we pay for that, then if it's a better alternative for us to go back into owner finance properties or other individual rentals, then unfortunately that's the circumstances, because I would rather invest in another rental property and get somebody into that property, because that's a whole different issue and a whole other home that the county hasn't put a hold on, than it would be to just try to fix up their home that does have a hold on. Because it's more time sensitive to just go ahead and throw them in something else, because at least they can live in something while we're making their repairs.
And then if we demolish and replace and put in a new mobile home, we have to make our money back. And if we got a loan of some kind on it, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be charging $425 for it. It's probably going to be $750 plus for that home. At least that will benefit our maintenance guy, because he'll be back on routine for at least that particular home. And now at least he's not hurting as much, but we're helping less and less people around that area and around that price range that they were able to afford.
And it's funny, because it's like circumstances like these almost make you become the problem that you're trying to solve. So it's like, once again, having rough tenants, you know, we're willing to deal with that issue, but for some others, they just get tired of it and they get fed up with it, and they start doing background checks, credit checks, all these crazy circumstances, like, you know, pet deposits or no pets, you know, like recommendations from other people, all this stuff. And we're like, why would we ever want to do that? Well, once again, after years of being burned from bad tenants, that's a possibility. Well, same thing here in this regard, right? If this becomes a routine issue where we're always dealing with potential regulation problems and other stuff like that, then it just becomes a system where it's never beneficial to ever invest in it.
It incentivizes.
Yeah.
It literally incentivizes you being a slumlord.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It is incentivized to make you a
it either does
slumlord.
that, or it incentivizes you to never invest in a type of property like this, and instead to invest in middle income and higher properties, which we have partners and ex-partners and previous lenders that we've worked with, and that's exactly what they always tell us. They're like, you guys.
Oh, they think we're crazy
Yeah.
for doing what we're doing.
They were like, why would you ever invest in anything less than $100,000? And we're like, because when by 100,000, I mean like individual single family homes, not like a mobile home park. It's like because we're trying to actually help people out, and they're like, nah, screw that, because you're only gonna get burned. You're just gonna get ruined every single time, and unfortunately.
And nothing against our attorney, he tells us this all the time as
time,
well.
every time he
He's
argues
like, get
with us
out of
routinely.
what you're doing. Sell everything that you have. Get into higher properties. Less headache, less problem, less issues.
I know he's probably right.
And
but-
sadly, seeing this whole situation that's happened with us now, he might actually be right.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Like, I don't want, like,
I just don't want to become part of the same problem that, like I said, we're trying to
Yes.
solve. The whole point of why we're doing this is to literally solve all these problems as much as we can within our small world. Obviously, we're literally less than a drop of the bucket in just real estate in South Carolina, let alone the U.S. and maybe worldwide, right? But it's still something, right? It's still an alternative for some people, especially the people, like I said.
have you guys ever heard of the crab story?
Yeah.
There's two men on a beach, and out of nowhere, a tidal wave hits, and millions of crabs just are littered all over the shore, and they're like stuck in the sand, and they can't get out, and if they don't get back into the water, they're going to die. One man freaks out and runs, beelines it, and starts picking up crabs, just throwing them back into the ocean. The other guy stands there and just looks at him like he's crazy, and the other guy asks him, like, what are you doing? There is no way you can save every single crab. And then the guy grabs a crab, shows it to him, and he's like, I just saved this one. And throws it back in.
Yeah, we're not going to change the world and solve every single, like in this case, save every crab, or in this case, save every tenant who's in a dire strait circumstance. No, we're never going to do that. It's too much. It's way too much to shoulder that burden. But if we can help one crab, one tenant, absolutely. That's the whole goal of this. It's like, once again, we could be deadbeat investors. We could be completely anonymous, right? We don't even have to do this transparency thing. But we're trying to present the issues of a problem, right? We're trying to make it aware that these are circumstances that, unfortunately, that this is
When you
rule
guys
itself that happens.
look at Elon Musk, this is similar on a grander scale of the shit that he has to deal with.
Oh yeah, I mean his of course is way larger, much larger money and more
Steve
people
Jobs
involved.
and Apple, he was small beginnings, leading into greater opportunities, leading to more and more things. Same stuff. You don't hear. It's funny, as a society, we focus so much on the success and not the process to get there. And that's the main reason for these videos, because seeing us fail will hopefully motivate you and giving you courage to like keep succeeding, keep trying, keep building, everything else like that. Because whenever we mess up, whenever we make a mistake, whenever we fail, we come back and we tell you, we figured this out. We came up with this. We decided to do this. We changed it over to this. We come back with solutions. That's the point of being a true entrepreneur. You are a problem solver. There is a problem and you solve it. And on a final point that I want to make, and I'm completely done with this video from this point on. I was talking with Derek and I find it very fascinating. What are the statistics on businesses, startups?
I believe if I remember correct, in the first 3 years, 95% of startups fail.
In the first 3 years, 95 of all startups
Pretty sure
fail.
that's the number.
What's the follow-up?
And then I think it was like if you survive after the first 3 years, if you go to the 2 years later, 5 years, it's like 70% of those that succeeded in the first 3 will fail.
The 5%.
Something like that.
Literally gets the 5% that did make it gets cut down.
70% of that 5%, which is like what? If you think of the whole thing, 3.5%, I guess, of the total. So that means that of the 100%, from year 0 to 5 years, 98.5% will fail.
And it's funny.
So 1.5%.
We've been coming up on this, and I see it. I genuinely believe, and this is the best advice I can give to anybody that's looking to become an investor. Your first 3 years are going to be all about the money. Keeping the budget balance, keeping your head above water, keeping it afloat, getting everything together so you can keep building, keep accruing, keep progressing. You're just trying to keep your head above the water on the budget. Your next 2 is dealing with the problems. And I really do believe that 70%, after they get past all of that, what kills them is that they finally aren't able to come up with a solution to a problem. So they just say, I'm done. And I understand. I can't blame anyone in that process, whether you're at year 0 or you're literally at 4.5. I can't blame you for that. I understand. And I think that's why it really is the ultimate decision maker at that end. Were you able to get past that? I would just call it the 5 years of hell. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. It is 5 years of pain, agony, and hell. Were you able to make it to the other side? And I think that's what happens to that second number, because the first number, I believe it's all about the 95 that fail within the first 3. I really believe it's all about keeping the budget balanced and keeping your head above water. They just weren't able to do that, and it's unfortunate. That next 2 years leading into year 5, I think it's problems. And I think that's what kills those. And it's very unfortunate that we have a system of some good, some important, some that matter, but we have a system of laws and regulations that kill 90% of the 5% that made it from there. Not saying every business is great, not saying every business is good, not saying every single person that goes into business has good intentions for it. But we should not have systems in place to ruin them. The economy, the market, and the people refusing to buy into the product should be the ones that ruin it.
And then I guess
that's it. That's my piece on it. I'm done for the
my
rest
final
of this.
point is I want to end it off on a high note, right? So once again, we're generally optimistic because things usually work out for a reason, right? Whether you believe in God, the universe, some magical fairy force, doesn't matter. Things happen for a reason, all right? People believe in karma, for example. First off, whenever you're in a downtrodden situation or things happen like this, right, where you have to deal with a circumstance where you have problems just one after another, typically the whole reason for that is for you to learn a lesson, right? Like people talk about it time and time again. You'll hear it from the great philosophers of the past in the Greek era, and then you hear about it today whenever you hear self-help groups, right? People always talk about the same thing every single time. Whenever you're at your lowest, even though we're not at the lowest, but you get the idea. Whenever you're low, basically it's so you can have a retrospective point of time and figure out what the actual problems are, and then come at it with a different, fresh perspective, solve the problems, and then grow from it and learn and forever succeed. And it's like, once again, I want to clarify, this channel's going nowhere, we're going nowhere, we're doing the same thing we've always done. The only issue is that we're more disappointed and saddened that this is happening once again, because obviously we always wish the easy route, of course, right? Like, to an extent, everybody would like millions of dollars to flow into their pocket and not have to do anything.
The road of least resistance.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say I distinctly want the hard route. I do generally like the hard route because I feel a lot better. I'm more of a journey guy than an end. I've never been an end guy. I don't really care. I've always liked the idea of getting that self-satisfaction of the work well done. But anyways, back to the whole point of this. So the thing that I want to point off is that in these circumstances, one, obviously we're learning a lot of lessons, right? We've learned a lot more dealing with specifically codes than we've ever had to deal with before in regards to specifically Anderson County, because we have properties in other counties, and we've had moments and times where we've interacted with those officials, but never to the extent of like this. And once again, we have contractors that go in and out of different properties, and some tell us one things and some tell us another. There's nothing that's set in stone, nothing's clear code and everything. There's always speculation or for some reason, like in code, is always interpretation. But generally speaking, as far as everything goes, I mean, once again, this is a learning experience. I just feel bad because it's at the expense of other people's living conditions. But as far as we go, investment-wise, once again, we will make money. I have no problem with that. I will guarantee that I will make money because that's why I'm in the business. the only thing I genuinely hope for, and I feel like it will work out in the end, because I don't believe people are truly heartless. I don't think, once again, I don't think the circumstances we're in are truly malicious, or I think it's more of just a victim of circumstance, given the
Bad correlation of events.
unfortunate timing that happened with the child passing on. I just think it was just one thing just cascaded into another, and we're at the ass end of the fallout, right? And so now it's to pick up the pieces and kind of pick up from where we left off. And so with that being said, I do generally feel that, once again, things will work out. I think somebody may help us down the road, because we can't always do everything on our own, right? There's always a chance that we have to reach out to somebody, which we've done, and we're trying to reach out to charitable organizations, see if they can help, or other investors to see if they can. And if they come through, great. That solves a little bit of that problem, but no guarantees, right? Not until it's in the bank, right? Or being in action. So long story short, point is getting to the root of it all. We generally feel optimistic. Obviously, it's a pain in the butt. We're a little disappointed in the most recent turn of events. But in the end, we will make it work out. We just hope that when it works out, or while it's working out, it doesn't come at the expense of any more suffering for other people. Because it's not hurting us, other than financially, but we can live. It's only hurting these individual people, and it's financially for them.
It's not even hurting us financially. If we just stopped everything we were doing,
yeah,
we'd be bringing in more of a profit and going from there. But the thing is that yes, it's a learning expense at these people's expense, based off the failings of 3+ years of other people.
Oh yeah, I mean, I get that, but the reason why I say financially for us is even in that transition, we may have a couple losses here and there that we got to offset, but it's not hard to offset a loss. It's not hard to make money. It really isn't. It's hard to do the right thing. That's the problem. And I don't know what more we can do in our current circumstances. Once again, but next video, it could be a complete, uplifting video, because, right, we had a similar situation last January/February when we were starting up the company, and it was a freaking disaster. It was a fallout. Like, remember the T-Mobile debacle? We had that issue where our phone number got basically stolen from us.
We got blamed for fraud.
Yeah, we got blamed for fraud. I mean, there was we lost,
even though we never used the number.
Our very first investment in this particular company was a loss, $2,500. I mean, that was literally starting out the gate. Maybe January is just a crap month for us. It may be. In February, if you remember last time, we started coming up on a bit of a, imagine January was a dip, and February we were kind of at the bottom, slightly coming up, and then if you remember March, it was back to the high again, and then it only went higher. So theoretically, if we follow the same trend, if you imagine life's like a roller coaster, we could be on the downturn, and we're kind of leveling out now, because like I said, we're on the ass end of the fallout, so it could be to pick up and grow in February, and everything goes back to great and stuff. I mean, these things come in cycles. I'm not worried about it. Honestly, I'm not. I just, once again, like, for example, 124, I feel horrible for their circumstances. The guy that tried to move into 118, horrible. Anybody else that feels in fear of their own home living conditions, because everybody that's over there right now, they're sleeping, not knowing if they're going to be evicted or
Derek is getting bombarded,
or holds, or whatever. I mean, it's so many freaking things that happen to these people, and like I said, I'm getting bombarded, not by just them, but by other people. Like, we haven't advertised the home, like, for Vlad, when he talked about, like, every morning he gets up and he sees, like, 20 messages. We advertised the home for 2 days. Specifically, it was a Tuesday, and because you went out on a Tuesday, we advertised it for Tuesday and a Wednesday. The guy committed, was signing leases later on that Wednesday. So it wasn't even a full 2 days. It was maybe like 30-something hours. And we got over hundreds of calls, potentially close to maybe even 500 plus people reaching out via email, other ways of reaching out, like text messaging, Craigslist, our phone business accounts, and of course Facebook. 500 plus people there, and then of course our backlog of people that we reached out to. It's insane. It really is insane. Like, there's clearly an epidemic, and it's not the pandemic. The epidemic is housing, and specifically in South Carolina, it is crazy. Like, we talk about it all the time. If you just drive down the back roads of South Carolina, like 1 in 5 houses are dilapidated. I'm not making this up. They may not have a for sale sign out front, but they're falling apart. In my neighborhood alone, where I live at, when I drive out in fact, one of the houses in my neighborhood when I drive out my neighborhood, I pass 3 houses before I even get into a major road.
I live on
that are completely dilapidated.
I live on the lake. There are 3
premium real estate
properties on the lake. My house where I live is directly across the lake. I walk out on my front porch, I'm looking at the lake.
Yep.
There's just one house in front of me. There are 3 houses on that road. Abandoned. I have lived there for years. I have not seen a soul come in and out of
Don't
those
forget
properties.
the one that did invest to buy in there, and all they got was the foundation in over a year ago, and they have effectively dropped the project altogether.
Yeah, there's a property that was purchased. There was a mobile home on it. They then purchased this like lot. Then they separated out into 2 lots, and they've dropped all construction.
All they did is
they demolished it, started a foundation in 2 different spots, dropped
And
it.
when we mean foundation, we mean literally because they were going to build actual houses, not put in another mobile home. So all they have is the block, the cinder block foundation,
and like gravel in it.
gravel in it. That is it. They don't have any of the layout for plumbing. They don't have any of the wood framing in there for the bottom beams or the seals. They don't have anything in that place.
Yeah,
they don't even have wood out there to get ready to put on. They just have a porta potty and the freaking gravel with the block foundation laid out. That's it.
They were working.
It's been that way for years.
They were working on it.
Months, almost a year.
No, it's almost been about a year.
Oh, okay.
I think we're getting.
Well, you live over there. You would know. I don't.
It's almost been a year. When they first started it, it was like 3 good months of like nonstop work and a year of silence.
Yep.
But hey, who cares, right?
That's the thing that kills me. Just ridiculous. And it's like, whatever. And same thing. We saw another mobile home park somewhere else get completely demolished. And it got replaced with like a Walgreens or something. It's like, great. Those could have been converted into housing for somebody. Because there's, like I said, there's a shortage of houses. There was like 50, I mean, we weren't going to get into it because it was too much work for us. We're over here trying to struggle with 12. That was like a 50-unit mobile home park, completely demolished. They replaced it with either a Dollar General or Walgreens or something else. They put a parking lot, paved it in, and they just put in some generic business.
Yep. And the funny thing is, there was another mobile home park that we saw that I believe it was like 15 or 20 units out in Seneca, very close by the way, to like Clemson student houses. I am confident that the whole park must have got condemned because nobody has touched it. It has trees growing through the units, and I've never seen anybody come in or out of there unless it's like vagrants or whatnot, basically like spray painting and tagging and things like that. All of that could have been available housing. I don't know what the situation is with that, whether it got condemned, whether it got holds placed on it, whether it was a bad slumlord that was running it. I have no clue. But the point is that now the only option for those homes is tear down and replace, or buy, like he's saying, and rebuild, which obviously comes at a premium. You have to run a business effectively.
Yep. And that's the thing, is like you said, if you replace that, it's not going to be cheap housing.
No.
Because it's brand new stuff. You're not going to let people come in there and damage your brand new thing and then have to pay for all
a 2020 mobile home. You're going to be charging $850 to $950 for a 2-1.
Oh, absolutely. Minimum.
A 2020 mobile, because the thing is, your mortgage on it is probably $600, more than likely. So you're looking at maybe about a $300 profit, which you have to then put 10% of it off for repairs and maintenance for that mobile home, and now you're collecting off the rest. You maybe have a cap rate of 7 to 8% a year doing it that route.
Not including any other things like obviously
taxes.
New homes come with way higher taxes. There's going to be insurance because you're definitely going to insure a brand new home. So of course it's going to be. I mean, it's crazy. It really is. It's like, once again, you're 100% incentivized. There's almost no reason. I can't think of one. You're almost 100% incentivized to always upgrade, replace, and the lower quality candidates or the lower quality income or the lower income bracket in general will always be disenfranchised. There is no incentive at all. Zero. Unless you're a nonprofit charity and you're doing it because it's a tax write-off for a donation. Other than that, never an incentive. And it's insane. But whatever. Like I said, it's not a big deal. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Like I said, we'll survive.
It just pisses us off.
Frustrating.
That's all it is. It really annoys us. Business-wise, really doesn't affect us. Company-wise, we're actually fine. No matter what the outcome is or how it goes one way or another, we're actually perfectly fine. But it's just unfair. That's it.
And then one last thing to finish off on the budget. So like I said earlier, we didn't get a chance to check into mobile home replacements for 118 exactly. We have gotten at least a partial quote for what it would cost to do some of the replacements and repairs, and it was already over $5,000, which realistically we can buy a mobile home that's already in a better condition for like $5,000, and all we're gonna do is add in the cost of moving, because we've seen on Craigslist and Facebook literally mobile homes that are $10,000 or less that are in better condition, and they just want you to move it off. So that's one where we're like, okay, we've already gotten a partial quote from like just the electrician, just the builder permit, and a couple other things. Not even including if we have to get the heating stuff getting done, if plumbing has to be redone. So if you add in that budget, say it's another 3, 4, 5,000. Once again, there's no point in getting to 118 and fixing it up. So backing this all back up to finish up on the budget and what we're looking to do in the future. After this video, we are going to look into what alternatives we have available and see what other properties are open in terms of buying mobile homes and putting them in. We're also going to look into alternative income sources, right? We're going to, like I said, look into just doing lot rent, storage, mail forwarding, whatever. I mean, those are just things on top of our head. There's just so many crazy options. Once again, we can partner with somebody and they can just take care of the problems for us, and then we just take a cut. And then there's also the options of well, maybe we could renovate it. Maybe we can move it somewhere else and renovate it, or I don't know. There's a series of events that can happen. I mean, it would suck to just let it go to waste, but once again, if it's financially beneficial, it is what it is. But
we can't help other people if we ourselves are bankrupt. Yep. It's that simple.
Yep.
And so
we can also possibly just sell the mobile homes as they are. Say we sell it for like everybody else is putting on Craigslist. Say we sell it for way less, like $1,000, and you move it. Well, there's a quick $1,000 that we can put towards another home, right?
The materials in those mobile homes alone is worth $1,000 plus.
Easy, absolutely easy. And so to finish it all up, right now our current priority based off of the inspection report that we got is to pretty much finish up any of the plumbing issues, because one, it's costing us water bill, and two, plumbing issues are a problem because landlords have to supply running water. So obviously we are resolving that. We actually, surprisingly, it's hilarious because since we got 118 done and we were working on 130, we've pretty much rectified all plumbing issues, because since then we've been doing minor repairs here and there for like whenever something needs a patch. And we've almost got the entire park completely resolved in plumbing. So there's that we were already working on. The second thing is the same thing. We found out later on that the underskirting is a problem. So now we're addressing that. We do have an order potentially coming in as a Monday or Tuesday where we're going to get a whole new layout for tin specifically, because we don't like aluminum, or sorry, not aluminum, but a vinyl, because it breaks whenever you have like rocks fly into it, or if you have a weed whacker, it cuts up all the underskirting on there. So we've got an order for 10, and we can get possibly 2 for around $800 to $1,000 each unit. Obviously depends on length and size, so we have to measure them out. So if that comes in, then all of next month's budget will go towards the vinyl, or sorry, the underskirting. And then after that, it's just simple things, right? Just getting back into the groove of stuff. Weather strips on some things like doors and whatnot, making it more energy efficient, covering holes and gaps like usual. Of course, making sure that the internals are good and working order. Yeah, basic rundown of stuff. Of course, we got to put guardrails and handrails on things, fix any of the platforms or lack thereof platforms. So once again, that's our current situation in terms of budget. So we'll figure out what we got to do to afford that. And then in the meantime, if any other opportunities come up, unfortunately, if the circumstances provide for it and it's a better opportunity, we're going to go for it. Given that some of these potential homes here, like I said, 118 isn't really being cost effective. And then in the circumstances of 124, if it's not cost effective for that one as well, we don't know, because we didn't think it was going to be needed a quote, but we'll get quotes eventually out there for that one. And we'll see what they can give us. And if it's, once again, not cost effective, then we'll have to put that money towards somewhere else. And that means that person's going to be without a home. And I don't know what to say. I can't do anything more than we can do. You can't give you all the clothes off of our back and everything else and stand there butt naked and you still ask for something. There's only so much you can physically give. So as it sits, like I said, we'll let you know in the February update what all shakes out from this month. And once again, we're pretty optimistic on what's going to shake out, because we've pretty much already hit the bottom of it and like the fallout. So really, it's just where do we go from here and see what we can come up with. Creative ideas. This is where the problem solving of entrepreneurs come in, and we'll test that and see what will come out. And that's pretty much the whole rundown. You got anything else to say?
Nope.
Otherwise, we'll see you in the next update. Sorry, this was such a long video, which is unfortunately there's a lot of stuff that happened this month. This was a very...
Well, if we didn't go off script, we would have been fine. But I'm sorry. Like, we were discussing maybe talking about all this, and clearly we had a lot more to get off our chest than I thought. Both of us.
And not just that, but this was a very, 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 very dramatic month in that we've had more events happen in the last 3.5 weeks of this month than we did in almost 4 months before. And that was saying something, because we've had a lot of drama happen in the other months, but this was a doozy of a month. But it is what it is. I mean, it's par for the course. But that's it. So that's pretty much the full video. Once again, if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, anything you want to reach out to us about, feel free to comment, feel free to message us. Obviously, we leave all
Or
of
if you have any ideas of how to sit there and
sure.
walk around this place, we're all ears.
Yeah,
We're willing to listen.
once again, there's people that watch this that may have somebody who has gone through something similar. People that may have advice, people that have made recommendations. Of course, absolutely. Feel free to reach out to us. Let us know what you think. You have our contact information. Our phone number's down there, emails down there, website's down there. Of course, you can just comment on the video itself. There's our Twitter. Feel free to hit up whatever you like. But outside of that, that's pretty much the whole shebang. And yeah, so that's the whole video. So we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.